everyone, it's Katie and Mike. Say hi, Mike.
Hey, everybody.
So we just got out of the Maze Runner, the Scorch trial. Wait, Maze Runner, no, yeah, it is Maze Runner, the Scorch trials. I forgot where the goes in the title. By the way, I keep reading it as Scotch trials, and that seems like way more fun of a movie. It's just I'm trying to drink scotch.
Well, there is a drunken debauchery scene.
Oh, yeah.
Just like The Matrix 2.
It wasn't just like The Matrix 2, it was like, what is it, from Percy Jackson. Remember the bit in Percy Jackson where and that was also but at least that one was a direct reference to a Greek myth. But and it was supposed to be. This was just was literally just, we're taking from random shit. Not particularly creatively.
I think even in The Matrix 2, it's closer to a Lotus analog than even this.
No, I don't even think The Matrix had, because I don't think so, because in The Matrix, it's not like the heroes got led astray. It was more like, oh, these people are just kind of debauched, vaguely. It's been a long time since I saw that movie, though. I've actually seen Percy Jackson way earlier than I saw The Matrix. Anyway, so the Scorch trials. So if you recall from our last review, or if you had actually seen the movie or read the books, I guess, we had no freaking clue, though, what was going on in the first movie. It was just like, wow, this leaves a lot of questions, and not in a good way, in a way this movie feels incomplete because they just bring up a whole bunch of stuff and they don't explain it. This one, they do explain it, but it still doesn't make there's still lots of things where I'm like, why did they choose to do that?
A lot of this movie doesn't make sense, and you question why people make choices.
There is a lot of stupid choice making. Starting with the fact, it starts off right where the last movie left off, because the last movie they got out on the maze and these people with guns came and they took them in helicopters and they're like, oh, we're finally out. And then you find out at the end of that movie that the doctor that they think died, but that was in charge of this whole operation, was actually staged her death on the camera so that they think that she died. For some reason. So that they think they're safe, I guess, or to just make another twist for the audience. It doesn't really explain. So they go to this facility, which they think is a rebel facility. And who is there? Let me look up the actor's name, because give me a second. Aidan Gillen, who literally everyone knows as Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, aka the guy who is automatically cast as people you cannot trust in stories. So him going, don't worry everyone, you're safe. You can trust me. Look, I don't have a mustache anymore. I have sort of a light beard going on. I'm not evil or mistrustworthy. And they're like, oh yeah, we can totally trust this guy that locks us in our rooms and takes our blood. And then every night at dinner, they call out 10 people to go to the safe place, or they go we're going to go past
the green place.
Basically. And they're like, well, where is it? And they're like, oh, it's like a farm. And I whispered over to Mike, where they take dogs.
And harvest your organs.
Where they take puppies or dogs when they get sick. It's fine. It's a happy little farm. And God bless the main Thomas, who is played once again by Dylan O'Brien, where he goes this seems like not a good idea. I don't think we should just automatically trust these people when we just had to go through all this shit. Especially because they keep locking us up and stuff. And so one of the other kids who also realizes, hey, this might be a problem, they both figure out that no one ever actually leaves. They just are taking some of the kids one by one, and they find out that they're actually when they say they're going to a farm, they are actually being farmed for their blood and being hooked up to these things.
They are being farmed from the enzymes being produced by their brain, so they're just hooking up tubes to the back of their brain stems and harvesting their enzymes.
Yeah.
For the rest of their lives.
They highly imply that they are basically half dead. That which is weird because you think then that they would try to, I don't know. But, so, anyway, so apparently, for some reason, they needed to go through that maze in the first movie in order to test out if the enzymes, or maybe like make their enzymes be more, they don't really...
Maybe it's something to survive the process of being a farm vegetable?
It doesn't really...
I don't know, like, I mean, those farm vegetable, you know, they're strung up and hung there, and, you know...
Yeah, it doesn't really...
Maybe that's a very intensive process to go through.
It doesn't really make any sense. But I mean, at least he has a good sense at this point to be like, yeah, we need to go right now, because they find Littlefinger, which, by the way, we'll be calling him Littlefinger throughout the entire movie, because he even said his name, and in my brain I was like, no, you are Littlefinger. You don't get to be anyone besides Littlefinger in this movie.
When you asked me if I knew who that was,
he put up his pinky. So, and then there was someone else from... I think there was someone else from...
Game of Thrones?
From Game of Thrones, but I can't remember. Oh, God, who was it? There was one actor from Game of Thrones, and I can't for the life of me remember who it was. But I was just saying, like...
Is it the Lady Doctor?
No. It was someone earlier, and I can't recall who it was. It doesn't matter, really. All right, so anyway, so they get out, and they're making their escape, and... I will say, Littlefinger makes a very good point of, it's literally just unbarren desert out there, and you're not going to survive, and also there are these blah, 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 they just say like a random thing that you don't know what they are, but like out there, and so if the heat doesn't get you...
Those other things will.
And then, but they're able to escape. They close, like, they lock the door, and you see this little window with the bad guys looking at them, like, being angry. And I was thinking, when they closed the door and looking at them, I was like, if I were them, I would give them, like, a middle finger just to be like, Q. And then I was pleasantly surprised to see Dylan O'Brien's character do that. And then I was like, wow, for once these characters actually do the exact thing I'm thinking that they should do. I really wish they would keep doing that instead of making terrible choices. So they escape with the other kid. His friends, the girl from the first movie who gets taken away, escape with the guy who helps them get out and who kind of also realized that something had gone wrong. Also, surprised there were actual girls in the other mazes. They never really explain why the main maze that they saw. Also, the fact that they built multiple mazes.
I don't know how this maze process solves what their problem is.
And why they built...
get into, but I don't know.
So, and also, like, why?
But now the mazes are gone, so I don't know why they're called the Maze Runner. Like, why is this called the Maze Runner series? This is weird.
It is. I was gonna say, like, well, the Hunger Games are called the Hunger Games, but then I remembered that they
Hunger
do
Games
basically
happen, in multiple books.
I will say, yeah, they keep having to do the Hunger Games, so I can appreciate the fact, except in the last one, but by that point there's a trend, and I don't mind the fact that it's called that. So, I mean, they do run a lot.
Well, do you want to just start calling Indiana Jones Running Archaeologist? Archaeologist Runner?
Okay, that one's a terrible choice because the Indiana Jones series was never called Indiana Jones.
It didn't start off being called Indiana Jones.
All right, I'm just saying.
First one is...
Mike, I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, it was the first thing that came to my head.
That's a terrible choice when you're choosing this. Getting back to the movie. So, all right, here's the problem. Here's the first thing. Because I will say this movie I thought was better than the first one because there were actual things. Like, there was more of a plot. I'll say this much. The sets in this were really good. Because most of the movie is them outside, in the wastelands of a city. We could not figure out which one. I was thinking I thought it might have been San Francisco. It's a mountain, and they had
It's a mountainous desert region.
And they had that one bridge, and I thought it could be Brooklyn, or like the Brooklyn Bridge, and then I was like, wait, no, there are no mountains.
Brooklyn Bridge is also stone.
Okay, and then I thought maybe it was, and that was the thing. I was thinking that it might be San Francisco, but it wasn't a red bridge.
Yeah, it wasn't the Golden Gate
So
Bridge.
it was just vaguely sandy, but then everywhere sand, so that didn't really help. Anyway, but the sets for this, they go into a lot of like abandoned buildings, a lot of like crashed over buildings. There's one that's clearly a department store, and again, it felt very...
Actually, I think they were in a shopping mall.
Shopping mall. Well, department store, shopping mall.
Same, pretty close.
You know, you
Similar
knew what
place.
I meant.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting set pieces, and I do feel like it would be a post-apocalyptic, just kind of left there to decay sort of places, sort of cities. So that actually felt, and yeah, there obviously a lot of the backgrounds were CGI, but it's still like all the stuff that they interact with felt very much like it made sense to me. All right, so then, but here's the thing. So they get to their first, like, one building as they're escaping, and it's nighttime, and they decide to turn on the lights, which, like, even after what they find, it doesn't make any sense because they still have people looking for them. And, like, the one thing you don't want to do is turn on the lights of a very large building.
To attract attention.
Even, I was thinking, honestly, that even, like, them using their flashlights when they just escaped and there were still people, like, looking around for them in the sand, I was thinking, like, don't use the flashlights. And then they turn on the lights, and I'm like, you idiots! So, but besides that, it turns out there are zombies. There are zombies. I forgot what they call them, like, the Crutch or something. What were they called? Krang? Crag? Maybe Crag.
I thought they started with an F.
I don't know. But the point is,
They're just zombies.
They are very fast zombies. They're like...
You thought they'd put a little twist on the zombies,
Yeah,
you know?
Here's the thing. I honestly thought that they weren't going to go actual, like, we'll infect you with a bite or a scratch zombies. I truly thought that it was just going to be rabid people where if they, ate you enough, you would die. If they hurt you enough, they would die. Or you would die. But no, it turns out that this infection that they're trying to cure happens to be...
Straight up zombie virus.
A straight up zombie virus. Which, and it's like, I tried not to give the Maze Runner, the first one, too much crap for being similar to the Hunger Games. Because some of this is genre... And I don't want to, like, assume or make that thing where, like, oh yeah, everything just wants to be the Hunger Games and that's why it's like this. I'm like, no, you can do stuff in this genre and not have it be necessarily. But it just feels like they went from, like, well, we're not going to do Hunger Games. Now we're just going to do zombies and just plop zombies in. And it didn't feel like there was anything else that they could do. Kudos for actually having child suicide, though. That was I was actually surprised they went there.
We still don't know why they left the gun with him.
Yeah, this was another stupid choice. Okay, so one of the kids gets infected. Of course, it's one of the kids of color. I mean, to be fair, there are 3 kids of color.
And here's the thing: it's 3 white kids, and then 3 diverse kids, and then 1 girl.
You should have said boys then for that.
Oh yeah, whatever. But it's 3 white boys, 3 kids of color, and then 1 girl. And they had a chance to really diversify this mix-up here, and because with the the whole being brought into the facility with all these other people, and I thought that's what they were gonna do. Like they would mix up the cast here, and they didn't.
I will say this much:
the cast the exact same.
A lot of the background characters were diversified,
and the one kid they do add is another skinny white boy.
But, alright, so I will give them credit for this, and we will go back then to the child suicide, or to the teen suicide, I guess. But, a lot of the doctors and the background people were, like, a lot of the kids were very diversified. Some of the people they meet along the way were very much diversified. They could have, I'm just saying, like, if we're really going to complain about the cast, in general, it actually had a pretty diverse cast compared to a lot of these.
To be also
movies.
fair, I think the black kid had 3 lines.
No, he had more.
I don't think he had much.
I think he had just as many as, like, the one, scrawny kid that joins up. He had a good amount. I'm just saying, I'm not gonna hold it as I'm not gonna be as harsh on this movie as compared to some of these other similar movies. I thought that they actually did an okay job with the diversity of the cast. It's okay. It's not great. It's just not something that I'm necessarily going to focus on if we're talking about problems that I had with the movie. So back to the child suicide. So, all right. So yeah, one of the kid, I think he was of Indian descent, even though do not call me on that. But he gets scratched up on his torso, and it starts to like rot and decay. And basically, and that was the thing, it's like, oh, maybe he just hurt really bad because he got scratched up, and it's not going to be the zombie virus.
And we've talked about some of these kids being immune, so maybe this kid's immune to it.
Yeah, and then,
really sick.
Yeah, and then he like shows, and they're like, wait, we thought we could be immune. Well, I guess we might not be able to be. And that's where they leave it at that. But so the kid's like, no, I want to die. Which, fine. I appreciate the fact that the kids very quickly accept his choice. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, they understand. But then instead of one of them just shooting him, they give him the gun as he's laying down in like this like little area of like shelter that they had made, and they start to walk away.
Why would you leave him with the gun?
Why would you leave him with the gun if you might need the gun going forward? I realize you guys don't want to be the person to shoot your, but it just...
You're leaving your only offensive weapon behind with him.
Yeah, that just seemed like a poor choice. Now, if they had said there's only one bullet left, or something like that, then okay, I don't...
Reasonable.
More reasonable.
But, there are more bullets in the world.
Yeah.
And it's possible that you may run into people that shoot guns.
Yeah, so, the rest of it, let's see. I don't know when we get into spoiler territory. So they keep going forward. They had heard from the doctor that's heading this. Well, they had overheard
that there's a resistance movement.
There's a resistance movement, and it's in the mountains, and so they see mountains on the horizon. They're like, oh, we gotta go there. And then it's basically walking through the desert, and they find another group.
And it's more stuff.
I
don't want to get too far into the spoilers.
Yeah, so...
That's about midway through the movie.
Yeah, exactly. So, as far as... If you've read the books, and you like the books... I don't think I have no idea how good this is as far as an adaptation, as far as a faithful adaptation, but I thought that it was at least a more enjoyable movie than the first one, and it had, like I said, the sets were really cool, and...
They did a much better job of explaining things in this movie.
Yeah, now there was still stupid things, but there were less stupid things than what was before, and it felt like there was a lot more world building. Alan Tudyk is in this one, so, and I think I vaguely remember him, like, we watched a video for, what's that card game?
Spell Slingers.
I know, but what's the video series from?
Geek and Sundry.
Yeah, Geek and Sundry. He was guest starring on there, and I think he was doing it partially to promote the Scorch trials, and so when he shows up...
Actually, that was pretty old.
Oh, was it? I know I've seen him... promoting
this
it.
Movie?
Yeah, but not like on a talk show or anything. So I'm not 100% sure what he was promoting it for. But I remember him doing that fairly recently. Anyway, but when I saw him pop up, I was like, oh yeah, you're in this. And he's very mincing. It wasn't even that good. It was just like, oh, Alan Tudyk, yay! I like seeing you show up in things. Hello. He was in the Lotus Party
Club.
Yeah, all right. We can talk about this at least. This is the thing, without spoiling too much. The kids in this movie, for some reason, trust adults way too much, well after they should stop trusting adults, including Alan Tudyk.
Every adult they've met has betrayed them.
Yeah, every adult they've met has betrayed them, except for like one guy who kind of half betrayed them, but then was like, okay. But, so they go, like, the main character is away from his group. He has one person with him, and And he gets up to Alan Tudyk, who is in charge of this party that's inside this building. And he's like, I need to find my friends. He goes, drink this to go to the party. And he's just like, and instead of being like, no, thank you, I'm going to go search around and find literally any other way because I'm not going to take a strange liquid from a stranger. I've already done that once in this movie in the first 5 minutes when they stuck me with something. I don't really want to do that again. But that's what I would say. I would say maybe I'm going to avoid anything having to do with this person and his strange drink. Guess what does happen, Mike?
Well, let's see here. The drink is not so good for the person to
it makes him drunk or drugged, whatever. But essentially, it's like the worst thing he could have done, and he was essentially about to be sold back. I mean, spoiler alert, I guess. So, like, this happens way too much, where I'm like, stop trusting adults in this universe. They aren't trustworthy. You know this because you had to get your friends to believe that they are not trustworthy, and then you do this. Yeah. In fact, only one group of adults are trustworthy in this entire movie. One out of the several different ones that these teens come through. And you would think that they'd be a little more skeptical. Just a little bit. After basically being put into a maze by the first group. Yay. Alright, so would you recommend this movie?
Rental.
I'd say only if you really wanted to see this movie in rental. Even if you've read the books, I think it's a solid rental for people who've read the books. I don't know if you really need to see it in theaters. Or maybe a matinee if you really were hardcore about it. I don't know.
It's not that great of a movie.
It was more okay than the first one, but that wasn't saying much because the first one was very I think I liked it, but I also have no concept of what's going on with it. So there were interesting parts that I didn't understand. And like we said, this one there's more to understand, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to watch this movie ever again. No. I have no desire to check it out again. Even if it made the first movie much clearer by proxy. So with that, I think, are we good for spoilers?
Yeah, let's go to spoilers.
All right, spoilers. I don't even know what to spoil. Okay, so, if you've seen Community, Pierce's brother from Community is in this, and he's a gang member, and he acts really well in it. I'm trying to find his name. I think it's Giancarlo Esposito. I'm so sorry. And he was also in Breaking Bad. That was where, one of his bigger roles, besides on Community. And his, what?
I was just making sure we were zoomed out.
I'm pretty sure we're zoomed out. And I thought his daughter, or his surrogate daughter, no, I don't want it for Android. Her actress was Rosa Salazar. And I have no idea where I know her from. She was in Insurgents and in a few other things. But she was pretty good. I liked her.
Yeah, she was well. She was probably the most likable character.
I still really... Oh, God. I know who was in Game of Thrones that was also in this.
Who?
It's, Ferb. It's Thomas Brody Stanger.
He's in Game of Thrones?
He plays the guide.
Oh,
yeah.
He is in Game of Thrones.
I was like, who was I thinking of? Because they were in the same scenes together. So I was like, oh, look, two Game of Thrones actors. And I forgot it's the guy who's been in both movies. Whoops. So, I was like, why did I not remember that?
I totally forgot he's in Game of Thrones.
And I'm gonna mispronounce the name again, but King Hong Lee, who is Mino. I think the H is silent. Mio. I am terrible at pronouncing all the names. I am sorry, but he was also, unfortunately, he was also Dong on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which I will always have mixed feelings about because that character is kind of super racist. And it's really sad because you see him here, and he's a solid actor. You know what I mean? He's fine. He did a good job, and he was not a racial stereotype in this one. So, but let's see, who else? You talk. You tell me if there was anyone else you like.
I don't know who else to say is.
Lily Taylor was in. She played the quote unquote good doctor.
Oh, the good doctor.
And she's one of those actresses where you've seen her in a lot of not so great movies and you feel really bummed out because she's a good actress. So I was glad that she got a little, she was serviceable.
Her role is short.
Her role is fairly short, but it was still kind of nice to see. Alan Tudyk gets to play a very mincing role.
Drug lord.
I have such a problem, though, because it's kind of a coded gay character, and it's a coded gay villain. A little bit, you know? A little bit. I was trying to think, I think it wasn't Greek. What was it? It's not Claudius. What is that movie? Like the one where he's it's gonna drive me crazy. It's fine. Don't ignore me. I'm having the hardest. Ignore me. I'm having the hardest time just trying to remember. I'm thinking of a very specific movie where it's just like a guy who loves debauchery, like a king or an emperor who loves debauchery and.
Futurama?
No, it's not.
Zombie.
No. Okay, so... Oh, also, I just found out it's the Crank. That is what those monsters were called, because there was an actual, a person in the credits that named, uncredited Crank. Or Crank parentheses uncredited.
Maybe there's just a guy named Crank.
Maybe. I'm trying to think what else happened. So yeah, there's a lot of them going from place to place and trusting people they shouldn't trust again. And some of it I understand. Some of it I understand because when they go into there's a lightning storm where one of them gets hit, and the first thing I whispered to Mike by the way was is he gonna turn into a lightning zombie now? Because apparently every time the kids get hurt. But they end up going into this building for shelter, and it turns out that it's inhabited by a bunch of, by this gang it's trying to survive, and so, they have to go to the leader, and the main character's well, let's just hear what he has to say, but it's not like they have any choice. So later when they're oh, you trusted him, it's well, it's literally, there were guns pointed at them. They kind of had to go where the guns were telling them to go. So I didn't feel like that was necessarily,
And they get betrayed there, and they have to run, and
then they get betrayed again, and then they have to, then they drive for a little bit. They actually get to sit for a little bit and not have to run. But then they have to run again. There's a lot of running. Not through mazes this time, but there was a lot of running in this movie. And, again, it does feel like more stuff happens, because in the first movie, it's literally them just trying to figure out the maze, but there's not really there's not as much of an arc.
I'm glad towards the middle of the movie they did break up the Smurfette syndrome.
Yeah, there are 2 girls in this. And like I said, I was happy to see some girls in the different groups of the kids that got collected. So that was nice. Like I said, there were different kids that came, 2 girls that come into the third act that were friends with the kid that helped them escape. So that was nice, and one of them was a black girl, so that, again, it adds some diversity to the cast, and I have no idea if any of these characters were described in the book, so if they weren't, then I appreciate the fact that the casting actually did an okay job of adding some diversity where they could have just added a bunch of white kids. I'm just saying, there was a decent amount. Let's see, it's also weird because, what was the girl's name? Sorry, I'm looking through this whole thing. Looking through IMDb. I think I went too low. Brenda. Brenda is the gang leader's surrogate daughter, and she gets bitten. And at first, when they get to, like, the safe haven, or not even the safe haven, but like the camp of the people that were going to take them to the safe haven. The people there are like, oh, we're going to kill her because there's no going back. And then the doctor's like, no, Thomas is here. Apparently none of the other kids count, but Thomas counts. Which, again, doesn't, like, okay, which of the kids count and which don't as far as the life-saving stuff? Because I thought all of them did. But apparently only Thomas needs to come to get stuff. So they end up...
Thomas is special.
Yeah, exactly. So they end up being able to use his blood, I guess, or was it brain juice? It doesn't... The enzyme.
The enzyme gets into your bloodstream.
Okay.
So hooking yourself up like an IV works to hold off the infection, but you need a shot that has some kind of concentrated dose of these enzymes. And
the fact that you're able to keep up. So anyway, so he ends up getting to at least give her more time.
The enzyme shot actually works for like 2 months or something. Yeah,
I think she said like up to 6 months. And the thing is that they never really explained to her surrogate dad or to her adopted dad that is what will happen. So he's like, oh, I can't imagine what would happen if something happened to her. And I'm just like, well, you're gonna in like 6 months. Why is no one explaining this to you? I feel like someone should explain this to you.
They explained it to Thomas, and then
Thomas never says anything. This is just one of those things where I'm just like, it's not even that annoying. I've seen worse things in movies that drive me nuts. Like, why? These are easy fixes. Now, you can tell him and then be like, I don't know what to do, but this at least gives you some more time. But they never go that way, and that's really annoying. I did like the fake out where he goes and he's like, oh no, her tent is on fire, and then she's behind him going like, you idiot, I got out. Because it seems like people die, like... He turns his back and then people are dead. Especially in like tents and stuff. Because in the first movie the one guy dies. In like the, thing. So we're going to get to a thing that Mike and I disagreed about.
Wondering when you're going to bring this up.
Yeah, so the girl from the first movie, the girl who had amnesia, when she's in the facility that they take him to at the beginning of this movie, they help her get her memories back, but we only find that out in the middle of the movie. And she says that she remembers being part of their company, of the
Wicked.
Of Wicked, which, by the way, again, why did you choose such a terrible acronym to make people trust you? Who thought that naming your company where you steal children for the greater good should be called Wicked? That is the worst idea. Oh, God, I hate it. Anyway, so, but she says to Thomas, like, why didn't you just leave it be? And there's this whole bit where he has a flashback to when he gets captured, but before he goes to her and he goes, just know that I did it for a good, I couldn't stand to have this happen anymore. I want you to understand why I did it. So she ends up getting her hands on a walkie-talkie, I guess. Well, not walkie-talkie though, because that's way too far.
When she gets all her memories back, she escapes with them through the facility, and then when they get to the the gang leader's warehouse in the middle of the movie where we meet Giancarlo and his daughter. They get betrayed at that warehouse, and Wicked comes in and starts attacking the place. The guy who betrayed them had a walkie-talkie to talk with Littlefinger, I guess, because apparently that's who else had the other walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
And so she takes that walkie-talkie in the most foreshadowed thing ever, and then they pretty much give her no lines for the rest of the movie until she betrays them.
There are a few, but yeah, well, she's also not in, the whole group is not in the movie for a pretty long time.
Yeah, they get separated after this.
And I did like the fact that it's only from his point of view. That felt very, because you don't find out.
I do like that, but they do eventually get back together, and then she says one line to him when he wakes up from getting drugged. And then when does she speak again? When she betrays them all. Yeah.
So so spoiler alert, they get to these like these like rebels who are trying to slowly take kids to like the safer area. And they're up in the mountains, and she chooses to betray them. And right after she is clearly like sometime after she's signaled them in to their location, Thomas goes up to her, just thinking that she's thinking deeply, and she tells the story of her mom and how her mom had the sickness and became a zombie, and she as a little girl had chained up her mom in the basement, and it was only after her mom gouged her eyes out and there was like blood everywhere that she started to gain consciousness back, but was still very much like, even though that doesn't really line up with all the other things that we saw, like all the other stuff that we saw. And there's also this weird thing earlier where Thomas sees that like some of the zombies had basically started making roots into the wall and were like tree people in the wall until they ripped off. Yes, it doesn't make any sense.
Tree people.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. It still makes more sense than the first movie, and that should tell you how much the first movie was just a clusterfuck of just not understanding.
I kind of wish that they'd go the I Am Legend route where, these people are sentient creatures and they're just trying to live, and they're like normal people.
That would be really interesting. It also doesn't, alright, we will get back to the whole betrayal thing, but it also doesn't make sense because in the first time that they experience the zombies, they wake up the next morning and they're able to walk fairly freely. And so you think, oh, well then they don't, like for some reason are really attracted to unnatural light, to like flashlights and to like lights caused by the generators. But they're not out on the daytime, so like maybe the sunlight hurts them, right? That's what you think. Because you don't see them like follow them.
You don't see them wandering out in the daytime. Yeah,
you don't see them wandering out in the daytime. Until Thomas goes with, I think it was Brenda, the girl of the adopted daughter of the gang leader, where they're stuck alone. And then when they run out into the daylight, then the zombies just chase after them. And I'm like, oh, well, apparently that rule was thrown out the window. So apparently just whenever it's convenient for them to be able to go out in sunlight, they're just totally cool with going out in sunlight. Doesn't make any sense. In fact, what really doesn't make any sense is that I'm pretty sure it was still dark out when they first... And then it's like bright daylight. They could have just had it still be dark and solve that problem. Also, we're getting farther back, but the first scene where they had the flashlights and they were running through the mall while the zombies were chasing them, I swear it was so badly done because I had no clue what was going on. The flashlights were flashing all over the place. It was mostly dark. It was really hard to tell who was who. There was, like, I just wanted the scene to be over because it wasn't telling me anything.
6 people running in the dark. Actually, 7 people running in the dark with flashlights you're trying to track, and you can't tell the difference between any of them.
And it's not like, and then they would cut from shot to shot, so there was no way to track who was getting attacked, who was falling down, who was in front. You couldn't tell a damn thing. And that was like the worst scene. I would say the worst scene as far as visuals in the movie. But there were still a few others where it's just like, and also again, like there is one when they're running away from the zombies, when Thomas and Brenda when those two were, and they see light at the end of the tunnel. I'm like, why do you still have your flashlights? They clearly only like wake up and notice you when you have lights flashing at them. Why are you like, you're running while you're holding light? Turn off the flashlight. They might still follow you, but you're definitely like giving them a lead. It doesn't make any sense.
It's like leaving a trail of gummy bears behind you.
Also, it's really dumb that like they almost see the daylight. And then he has to go back though because she's like turned another corner, and that's when they see all the weird vine things. Yeah, the vines, but when the roots. And that would be my point of going like, I don't care to investigate. We need to go. That is clear daylight. This is not clear daylight. We need to stop going. Why are you going further? But again, no one listens to me in this movie because they already made the movie and made these choices for the characters. So anyway, back to the girl. So, yeah, there's a story. I'm going to say this much. There's a story that the girl tells about her mom.
You've already told it.
I know. I already told it. Mike did not think that was enough justification for her turning the rest of them in. I think, while it's not a good thing, I can understand. Don't say anything yet.
I'm letting you go.
The fact that she worked, it's not just that, because she actually remembers working in the facility. She like that was her choice to work there at the beginning, and also she remembers working there. In her mind, I could see why, now that she has her memories back, that would be the choice she would make.
But see, she wants to try and get a cure, which they're not trying to do. They are trying to harvest people for their enzymes from their brains and turn them into vegetables to harvest enzymes for a cure that only works for about a month to 2, and they have to keep getting booster shots every month so they could sell those things as a commodity.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not saying that this is necessarily a good idea.
She wants to sell her friends to be, vegetables. They're cows. Sheeple, literal sheeple.
Can I talk about this? We don't know that she thinks that it's definitely not a complete. Let me say my piece. I believe what they were trying to say was we still need more time in order to find this. So the whole point is they really believe that they can create a true cure for whatever the disease or for the virus or whatever it is. At least that's what they've been telling their employees.
But they're still turning them into, enzyme batteries.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying I can understand why she's justified it to herself.
So she's betrayed all of her friends that helped her out and kept her alive so that they can be batteries so that older people can try and find a cure. Because they're dead afterwards. They're not going to survive being mana batteries. They're not going to be unhooked and, hooked out of the Matrix here. They're not even in a Matrix. They're just dead. They're half dead. She sold out her friends to be half dead things. Is that worse than being a zombie? At least when they're zombies, they're like moving around and have the freedom of movement. I think zombie is a better choice than being a mana battery.
I'm not saying of all the dumb choices that were made in this movie, hers seems like the one that actually had some thought to it.
There's some thought, yes, but she should have thought more than 30 seconds about this.
All I'm saying is,
and also, if she's one of the immune, which they were hooking her up to before, they had her running through all the tests. It seemed like they were prepping her to be hooked up into these things. I don't think
she was. I think they were prepping her to get her memories back.
Well, then,
I'm not saying it makes sense. This series clearly doesn't make sense. We have to accept the fact that we are not going to be able to solve this. Because it doesn't make sense.
If she's truly one of the immune, they're just gonna hook her up to be a mana battery. Why not? They're evil.
I don't even think she's supposed to be. I think they did it to punish her, maybe? That's the thing. None of this makes sense. And also, I mean, again, none of this makes sense. That decision and maybe it's because the actress really sold it. I will give her that. Let me look up who the actress is, because I thought that the actress really sold that scene pretty well. And that might be why I'm giving her more of a pass than I normally would. It's Kea... Oh my gosh, another really long name I don't know how to pronounce. Excuse me. Kea Scudero... You try it.
Kea Scoladero.
You missed an I. There's an I in there. Okay, see, I can't do it either. But I thought that whole scene where she was when she was talking about her mom, again, I feel like she sold at least the mindset that the character was in. And
I'm not saying it's not well acted. I'm saying
you just didn't like the reasoning.
There is no reason. She sold out her friends to be batteries and farmed for the rest of their existence.
All right, before we get closed off, are there any other things that really stood out to you about the movie in general? One way or another.
It's unique, I guess, in some ways, because it's sort of like a thing. Like, I've never seen a movie like this before, but it's still kind of dumb in a lot of places. Yeah,
I'd agree. There's a lot of... Again, it's not the worst of these I've ever seen, and I think it is better than the first movie. Again, the sets were really well done, and I mean, the big problem is that Dylan O'Brien's character, Thomas, the main character, still has so little personality. The only personality he really has is loyalty to his friends, which I can appreciate as at least a trait, and a trait that actually felt like it's a little bit more earned than it was in the first movie. But at the same time, there's still so little to his character because he doesn't even know, which is the problem when you have, audience insert characters where they literally have no memories. You have no, he runs fast and he has loyalty to his friends and he has magic blood. Those are the three things. And that third one isn't even a personality thing. That's just a plot point.
Plot points the movie.
So I would say that if you like the story, if you liked the books, maybe check it out on a matinee or rent it. As far as I would like to see them do I'm thinking final movie. I would like to see them do that because I want to know what the hell's going on. But at the same time, I'm not going, oh man, this was so amazing. I definitely want to see the third movie. And
it's better adaptations than Percy Jackson movies.
Yeah.
There's nothing in me that wants me to watch more Percy Jackson movies.
I want to see the second one to see how badly, because apparently it's worse than the first one in some, there are a lot of ways in which that second one was actually worse because it garbles up the plot so bad. Which is, again, it's so... I
would love to see them try again with Percy Jackson, just reboot the damn thing and just try to do better.
It's a really interesting book series, but they did not do a good job on the movies at all. It was really it was kind of a mess. Okay, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, so if you wanted to go into this clear without seeing the first movie or the books, do not do that.
You could do that. You could.
Oh my God, you could not.
There is nothing that happens.
How about when they talk about remember?
Oh my God, they have lost friends in this war zone that they are in, full of zombies. Oh my God, people died in the previous movie? That's unthinkable. There's nothing that happens in that first movie that carries over into this movie. Literally, besides them being a group of friends.
That is not true.
Yes!
I would be completely confused if...
They are a group of friends that survived some kind of harsh trial.
I completely disagree, but okay.
You don't need to see the first movie at all. I mean,
you would have to, because
you'd be completely confused why it's called the Maze Runner, because it's the only one with a maze.
How about the fact that you wouldn't know that those two characters had, like, you wouldn't know until the middle of the movie that those two characters had amnesia. You wouldn't find out, like...
That doesn't matter.
Yes, it does! Some of these things do matter, or else why don't we just throw away the whole movie? So, again, it was okay. It definitely wasn't like the worst movie of the year for either of us. It was just kind of middling, and there were some interesting set pieces, and, yeah, I think that's about it. I am ready.
If I have to quote Immortan Joe, it's mediocre.
I'm done. This has been Katie and Mike. Check us out at justplainsomething.com, and we'll see you later.